this video, I'd like to give you a technique that I use and a lot of other people use for remembering vocabulary, to help you recall vocabulary, because remembering words is actually pretty tough. It's not easy to do in a foreign language, and it's one of the challenges that we face because we have a lot of new vocabulary which we need to learn and to be able to recall when we need it. So there's a technique, or even a trick you could call it, that will make it easier for you to recall vocabulary. Let's do an example with the verb cenar. Now, once you make contact with that word, even just the first time, the memory of that word is stored somewhere in your mind. It's there somewhere, and you may remember it 5 minutes from now, but not necessarily tomorrow afternoon. So what we need to do is create a pathway to be able to find it again, like a roadmap to be able to find cenar in your mind again. Some of this might seem crazy at first, but I'd just like to ask you to bear with me. Firstly, what I would do in trying to remember cenar is that the beginning of it, cenar, sounds like say in English. So I would use that as like a hook. So we have cenar, and I'm isolating say at the beginning of it. And then I would visualize that I'm at a dinner table, and all I do at that dinner table is constantly say nar, 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 nar. And I would make it a formal dinner with the white tablecloth and the butlers, all of that. And then I would see everyone around the table looking at me like I was crazy, because all I keep saying is nar, 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 nar. So what happens is that this creates a strong image in my mind. I have this image where I do nothing but say nar, and this creates a pathway back to the verb cenar, to have dinner. Now, this type of image is obviously very personal to me. You can use it by all means if you feel it will work for you. But generally, when you are creating your own images and visualizing pathways back to verbs, they're going to be very unique to you. Now, it doesn't matter how crazy they are, it only matters that they work. They work in giving you a pathway back to the memory where that word is stored. So tomorrow afternoon, I'm thinking, okay, what's the verb to have dinner, and I don't try to necessarily remember the word. I remember the image, the visualization that I created for that word. And then I remember how everyone around the table is thinking I'm crazy because I'm constantly saying na, 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 and that gives me the clues that I need to locate cenar, to have dinner. Let's do another example. Say we're trying to remember the verb romper, to break. Well, the first thing is that I notice per at the end sounds very much like pear in English. So that's the first thing I would grab onto. Then for rom, it sounds to me like the name Ron, like a guy named Ron. So what I might do then is visualize Ron breaking a pear. And I'd make it very vivid. Perhaps he's jumping up and down, stamping on it, or he's smashing it with a hammer, something vivid like that. But in the end, what I would get is this clue, because I have Ron breaking a pear, and I would make that very vivid, that scene in my mind very vivid, and it would give me Ron breaking a pear gives me a roadmap, a pathway back to remembering romper, the verb to break. Now, doing this does take some practice. Don't expect to be good at it straight away, but it doesn't take a lot of practice. Within a short while, you'll find that you very quickly are able to create an image, a visualization for a word that you're trying to remember. Also, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be enough of a clue so that you can get back to where you have stored the memory of that word in your mind. Logic would tell us that this wouldn't work because it gives you even more to remember, right? Now you're not only trying to remember the word, but also the pathway or the image that you created to try and remember it in the first place. But I assure you this technique really does work. It's fantastic for being able to recall vocabulary, and you'll find that you retain a lot more vocabulary long term by creating these little scenarios around the word. Because what we're doing is not actually trying to remember the word, but give us a pathway, clues to where we have that word already stored in our mind. That's what we're trying to find. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you go doing this technique for all words because it's going to get tiresome. Just do it for the words that you're having difficulty in remembering. For example, a lot of words are really self-evident already. For like rentar, it's so close to English that it won't be hard to recall that. Or usar, again, it's very close to English, so we don't need to perform that kind of recall technique. Finally, the more real you can make these images, these little scenes, the easier it'll be to find your way back to the words, the more powerful they will become. And it's not like forevermore, whenever you want to remember the verb desir, you're going to have to go back to this visualization that you created. It's just to get you started, because after a few attempts to recall that word, you'll find that you no longer need this little visualization to locate where the memory of that word is stored. Your mind will simply give it to you straight away. But it's just to get you over that first hurdle of locating where the word is. And then after that, you can discard all your visualizations because your mind will just give you the words instantly.